Hello, Mr. Richter. Hello, dear guest. I'm very happy to have today one of the leading personalities in the Czech insolvency industry. My name is Ernst Giese. I'm the country coordinator of Insol Europe for the Czech Republic, and I'm the managing partner of Giese and Partner. We are focusing on foreign investments and restructuring work. My guest, Tomáš Richter, as I said, very well-known expert in the insolvency world here and also in Europe. He's a professor at Charles University, also a lawyer with the law firm JSK. Tomáš has published many books and articles on matters of insolvency and other issues. And I have prepared some questions today about the Czech insolvency world, the influence of Corona, and also on the directive on preventive restructuring frameworks and discharge of debt. We call it the restructuring directive, and Tomáš is an expert in that. So, Tomáš, again, welcome.
Good afternoon.
Wonderful that you're with us.
So glad to be here. Thank you. Thank you very much for the invitation.
My first question actually is very broad. How do you see the Czech insolvency market? What is your feeling at the moment about this field, which is actually important in your business life?
Yes. Well, I mean, I'm sure the clients would like to have as little of it as possible, but it can always be avoided. I think at the moment, actually, the situation is interesting because there's a lot of waiting. People just don't know what's going to happen. The predictions that there will be a massive wave kicked off by Corona did not materialize, just like they didn't elsewhere in Europe. State aid and all of the other protective programs, I think, have just stalled that, and there's a lot of waiting as to what's going to happen. So I'd say at the moment we have had a significant reduction in cases last year, again consistent with the experience elsewhere in Europe. There are a couple of large cases filed at the end of last year or the beginning of this year, but it certainly isn't a wave, anything like that.
So the effect of Corona did not have or does not have the effect everybody expected, because everybody thought that basically business is down, especially if I think about the tourist industry, especially in Prague, we know, which is very important, and at the moment what I see is there's only 11% of the numbers before the pandemic, and nevertheless it seems that also in other areas, the whole cultural area, but nevertheless you don't see any effect of Corona also on the Czech market, the Czech industry.
You don't see, I mean, in our sort of market you don't see it. I mean, it is very sad when you walk past shut down stores and restaurants, and there are a few of them, unfortunately, but it hasn't materialized into larger cases.
Yes.
At the wholesale retailing premises or at the larger end of investors. Even in hotels and that sort of type of asset, which people a year ago assumed would be the first in line for distressed transactions, I don't think even there not much has actually happened.
And do you think the main reason, if you were talking about larger companies, we know the Czech Republic has a very important automotive industry, and lots of suppliers are also in this country. Is the reason that there is not such an effect visible, is that because of the state aid, or is it simply because sales are going on and still everybody loves Skoda? Is it the state aid that helps, or is it basically the industry is so robust that they can even survive such an event like Corona?
Well, I mean, many of them have survived, but they've been bleeding. There's no question about it. I mean, large swaths of that sector has been down 20% of sales or close to that. and at those EBITDA margins that basically wipes you out, and you're not making any money.
Right.
And they've been going through that for a year now. Yes, there's been state aid. Yes, there have been all sorts of things. But the uncertainties in automotive, especially, are much larger. They go beyond Corona. It's electric and emissions and all that. And that particular sector, I think, is under a lot of stress, obviously. And I mean, what I hear, I think that the most probable things in the pipeline are probably from that sector.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's also very questionable what's going to happen, because it's difficult to imagine that, especially for those parts of that sector that have got to do with the powertrain, you're going to have many buyers when the trouble really hits. So that is a big question, and it's a strategic question for this country, certainly, and quite typically I don't think that the public administration has any plan for that.
So in brief, it's less the Corona pandemic which has an effect on the automotive industry rather than the technological, let's say, progress and basically the electric cars and the, let's say, redrafting of cars. I mean, we'll have totally different cars than we have now, and that has much more of an impact than Corona. Is that?
I think it's a mixture of both.
Mm.
I mean, short term, Corona has done a terrible amount of damage, clearly, but it's compounded by the uncertainty about the future.
Mm-hmm.
The people that have spoken to me are saying this year is surprisingly good. But the pipeline of sort of our call-offs and the demand for our products is ever more uncertain. It's more unclear to us what will happen.
What we hear often is the question: if we don't expect a wave of insolvencies, but if there was one, how well is the Czech insolvency industry prepared for a wave on wave of insolvencies? Is it prepared, or is it? What was your view on that?
I think they'll manage. I mean, trustees, especially the large ones, the ones with the special license, have been complaining about too low case numbers for years and years and years. So even if they got a little more work, I don't think that they would have any cause for a complaint, because they've been asking for it all the time.
Okay. So actually, but that's also my impression, is that this wave of insolvency is sometimes more wish than an upcoming reality. I think we can say that.
I mean, we'll see that. I mean, it's clear who the winners are of the crisis. It's quite clear who the losers are, as they call it, the K-shaped recovery. The big question is everybody in between. What's going to happen with everybody else who is not e-commerce and who's going through the roof, and who's not retail, restaurants, who's down.
Yeah.
And there is 75% of the economy in between, and I think all of them are in quite a state of suspense. So we'll see what happens. And
that's, I think, a risk also, especially with the Czech Republic, as I already mentioned, is that the Czech Republic is an automotive country, and it needs, let's say, also kind of a restructuring with new industries. But I mean, there are, I think, quite good examples also here, which will certainly be on the winner's side. Okay, so thank you for that first part. Secondly, we're coming now to the restructuring directive. Maybe you can tell us a little about the status at the moment. Where are we standing in the Czech Republic regarding the directive?
We are shortly before a major door, where we've been for a year and a bit. The Ministry of Justice has been working on implementation for quite a while. They have started long before Corona. They had a good white paper in spring 2020, and then Corona came, and I think it's fair to say that they were completely overrun by the topics and the short-term reactions that the political process had to come up with, and then they never kind of recovered and got back to it until earlier this year. So right as we speak, there really is a draft in a advanced stage. It hasn't been made public yet. It has been discussed in quite intensely over the last couple of months and weeks between the ministry and small select group of people with whom they were consulting. And I think that they have got a deadline to come up with a discussion draft that will be sent for comments publicly at the end of July. So unless they get an extension, which they say that they won't, we're going to have something akin to a draft next month.
From your point of view, is this draft discussed in the legal, let's say, industry? Is it discussed between colleagues, judges, lawyers, or is it still a little bit at the side?
Well, I mean, I think people who understand what's coming, of course, are very eager to see it when it finally appears. But it is a small group of people. It's not thousands and thousands of people who are sitting, waiting for the draft to appear. But it will certainly raise interest. It will raise controversies as it is bound to. It would, even if it was a perfect draft, which it kind of never is. So there will be an interesting process as the draft comes through the rounds, and as people look at it, start to comment, arguments are being held over it. The question is when that's going to happen. When will Parliament actually start to debate that, and whether we make the deadline, which is next June. So that's less than a year now. If the political process sailed smoothly, and if a good draft entered the Parliament, and I mean good of the sort of that the Staruk draft was good, I think it could be just about possible to sort of make next June. Okay. But it would have to be a very lucky set of constellations.
What is your expectation in regards to the companies, to managers, I mean to the users of this, and also of course in respect to IPs? Does it facilitate life for everybody? Is it a step forward? What is your personal view on it?
Well, the big question is, of course, what comes out of it at the end of the pipe. I think what will go in it has got a decent chance of not being bad. It's not ideal. If there were 2 or 3 more months' time, I think it would be a lot better bill. But it has got a chance of coming up with proposals that could help restructure viable companies, I would say.
So it will make, it will help, let's say, it will help restructuring companies. Well, that's the big point, to really help companies to survive and do it not when it's too late, but the idea is to have it at an early stage, to give a tool to companies and to management, a tool for an early rescue, not when it's too late. I mean,
yes. And the big question is whether that happens.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I would hope it does. At the same time, I would hope it doesn't lead to too much abuse, which it of course always will.
Yes.
But it's a balancing act. We'll see.
Okay. Do you think that we need a new type of IP which will operate with the directive, the tools, or is, are IPs today able to use it? Also in respect that we need, let's say, high level. I mean, it's a high level tool. On the other hand, the aim of the tool is to, or the aim of the proceeding is to kind of reduce costs, so it will become cheaper. Do you think that the industry is prepared for the directive and the toolbox?
The interesting thing about the draft, and again, I don't know how it comes out at the end of the pipe, but the way that the draft most likely will go into the process is a proposal that isn't focusing on the IP at all. There is a idea of a restructuring advisor,
Okay.
which would be a market generated type of a consultant, really,
Yeah.
whom the debtor could hire with the support
Mm.
of the majority of unrelated creditors,
Mm-hmm.
and who would facilitate and sort of work as a gatekeeper and help the debtor prepare the plan such that the creditors can have trust in the soundness and integrity of the process. And that role is not meant for the IPs. That's so. With a bit of luck, a market process could create room for advisories to specialize in that. I mean, we're now 30 plus years down the road to a market environment, and there are people who have got reputations. So there will be people who can offer the sort of position that this calls for. So that's one thing. The other is that there will be roles for a IP for the sort of regulated type IP with the special license, the ones licensed for big companies and financial intermediaries. But those roles will not be the role of a overall insolvency administrator who's drafting the plan or running the show. It will be a role for somebody who is appointed by the court to resolve a specific issue, to look at a specific type of claim and say, yes, it looks to me like this is a valid claim and can go into the plan.
Understood.
Or no, it looks weird to me. You cannot really go in that and change voting circumstances by putting all this money into the pot because it doesn't sound like a real claim. And sort of that sort of thing. The court would appoint a licensed IP for, but not for running the entire show. That the running of the show would be for the debtor, very much as it is in reorganization and informal proceedings, and the debtor might be supported by this external restructuring advisor.
Final question: what is the expectation, especially of the big creditors of the banking industry? I mean, as we know, in the Czech Republic, the creditors have a very strong role. What is the? Do you have already some feedback from them? Are they unhappy about this, or have they already given their opinion?
Frankly, I don't think they have yet paid much attention to it. But in fairness, there hasn't been anything to pay attention to in the technical sense of the word. There hasn't been a draft. There is nothing that they could actually look at, go through the sections and say, oh my God, this is good. Oh my God, this is bad.
Okay.
So that will all come, and I think it will come this fall.
Okay. Okay. Final question to you. Overall, so you think it will be a progress? It will be an upgrade for the Czech insolvency world, this directive. Are you happy with it, or would you think it would be better without it?
Oh, well, I mean, it's a bigger question. The question is, would Europe be better off without the directive? I mean,
yes, maybe this one. Maybe that's a good.
And that's a terrible question because I was on the expert group with whom the Commission consulted the directive. I think that Europe probably will be better off with the directive, and I think the Czech Republic will probably be better off with the implementation if it is done right.
Okay.
And that's a big if.
Okay.
But it is our own business. I don't think that there are many too terrible things in the directive that you couldn't get around in a locally tailored, well done implementation. Whether the Czech Republic is a country that actually has the capacity to implement it in a thought out expert way, I'm not sure, but we got to give it a try.
Okay, let's see. So thank you very much, Thomas.
Oh,
thank you for coming to us today. So have a nice day. Bye.
Thank you very much.